Hello and welcome to the Simply Colorful FiberCast. Today's date is October 2nd, 2015. My name is Lynn and I'm your host, and we have an exciting night planned. We have basically homework from Textile Tarts, and it's all doll sewing related. So thanks for joining, grab a project, and we'll get started. Before I start, though, I did want to express my deepest sympathies to folks out in Roseburg, Oregon, and to the shooting victims. It's a tragedy. It's terrible. And just wanted you to know I'm thinking of you. And all Fibercasters are thinking of those folks out in Roseburg, Oregon, and around. So with that, let's get into an hour of Fibercast. Remember, it's all about what we can get done together in 60 minutes. And like I've been saying for going on a year and 3/4, it's amazing what I'm able to get done because you're out there. So thank you. Thanks for tuning in, and let's get making some dolls. Let's see. First off, I wanted to show you what I have here for materials so that you have a feel for where I'm finding the information and what I'm using. First off, I'm making doll heads for a painting class that we're doing tomorrow with Textile Tarts. So Al's going to teach us how to paint faces on doll heads, and he sent us the link to a free doll pattern that I am using, and it is from, if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, you might want to write it down, but the pattern I'm using is from glitteringdolls.tripod.com. I'll say that again, glitteringdolls.tripod.com. And basically, I am making what they're calling a head pincushion. And those are the 3 pieces that I'm cutting out of and sewing together from some fabric. And this is nothing more than flesh-toned cotton fabric that I've washed. Remember to wash your fabric. I think this is the same fabric I used when we made our topsy-turvy dolls. So Colleen, if you're watching, remember that. So that's first, and what I need to do most urgently is make a couple of these dolls, and we'll stuff it. And for that, I wanted to make sure you knew that I had my stuffing forks from Barbara Willis. I love these things. They're much better than a dowel or anything else I've found, and they come in 2 sizes, small and large, and you can get them right from Barbara Willis Designs. I also have a small hemostat for turning things in one of these pouches we made. Remember us making these pouches? I love these things. This is a little hemostat that may be useful in the second part of our program tonight, where we're going to make a Tilda doll. And let's see, and I have some Nymo thread. It's kind of like floss, tooth floss, that you use to sculpt the head. And we may get to that tonight. But really, so first order of business is to make a couple of heads and sew them together and stuff them so that I can bring them tomorrow to my Textile Tarts meeting. Then, if we have time, and I really hope we do because this I'm a little bit more jazzed about, is I want to make a miniature Tilda doll, T-I-L-D-A. Look it up. There are oodles of free patterns online. It's from a girl named Tilda over in I want to say England, in the UK, and years ago she started making these, and there are books, Tilda doll books, and she's going to be fun because half of her clothing is actually part of the doll. So we'll have fun with that, and I actually am going to make her Christmassy, and I'm going to use this silk brocade that I think I showed you last week that came from a friend. So that's going to be fun. But before we get to, so that's what we're doing tonight. We're making dolls. Grab a project or make yourself company, grab some tea. You can always send me email at lmarquidant@gmail.com. I'll spell it LMARQUEDANT@gmail.com, or leave a post on the Simply Colorful Facebook page or on Google+, or on YouTube, wherever you are. We would love to hear from you, and we love to see pictures. So I think that's all those I needed. Hopefully you can see me and we're good to go. You can see I brought out my Bernina, and I just sewed, well, let's see. I'll sew all of these in tiny, tiny stitches. And those tiny stitches literally are 1.4 here. The tinier my piece is, the slower you have to go. If you remember this, when you're sewing around your doll part. But this is pretty big, and really it is only a practice, so I'm not going to get too fussy or worry too much about the length of my stitch. I just need a canvas to learn from Al. Al is in our doll club, and he's from Worcester, Massachusetts, and he is a very good doll face painter. And he's offered to show us tips, like apparently, and I guess I should know this, but there are tips to painting on fabric because fabric will bleed, and your any inks or materials. See how I have to go slowly around her nose? Okay, so what I've done is, oh, and I should say that I copied the pattern onto freezer paper, and then I ironed it onto that fabric. And now I've simply, with a very small thread, very small stitch count, I've sewn around the areas that don't have the dotted dash line. And what I've ended up with are, well, actually, yeah. What I've ended up are two things that I need to cut out. Now, on the dashed line areas, I cut right next to the line. That's going to be another seam allowance. Where I just sewed, I'm going to put, I'm cutting 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And I end up with that for the front. So now I have two of those, two fronts. And now same thing for the back. I'm just going to cut it. And I'll only stuff one and put one of these together tonight. Because we have to get to our Tilda doll. Okay. So now we have two backs of the head. And now, before we sew a front and a back together, I'm going to now sew this. And I'm sorry I don't have an actual picture of the finished product, but basically it's going to be a pin cushion, I think that's about 4 or 5 inches high, and it's going to be a woman's head and just her bust or her top of her. So that's what I'm going to make with this. And I read the directions, and there's kind of a cool thing that you do, like you do with the bottom of a bag to square it off. We're going to square off her chest. If that makes sense. Now, I'm going to redo that because I didn't get as close as I would have liked. There we go. Okay, now I'm not even going to cut my thread. Go right over here. Believe me, I wanted to use my new old machine, but I don't have a good table for it now. And this one was already set up on the table, so I figured I would just pull her out. Now, what I just did was I left the top open, because we're going to stuff that, and then I left these two corner edges open, because we're going to, I'm going to sew those. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So now it's ready to cut out. Okay, so there's that. To tell you the truth, I only read how I'm going to sew it together. I think it's going to work. Again, like the bottom of a bag. It said basically match your seams on the bottom and then sew straight across. So I'm going to use one pin, and hopefully that'll work. Ooh! Hey, Sarah's out there. Hi, girlfriend, to you too. Sarah says hi. She says she's looking good making your doll heads. Thank you. You taught me. I'm getting ready for tomorrow. Are you going tomorrow? I hope I'm doing this right. What else does Sarah say? I'm knitting tonight, and she said she'll make her heads tomorrow morning, so you are going. Excellent. I'm going to be interested to see what pattern you use for your heads. Sarah, as I hope folks remember, is our master knitter who came and showed us. She's visited us a couple of times. We did Raggedy Ann's together, and then she came and rug hooked with us and shared with us her knitting curriculum. And most excitingly, very soon, she is getting a new dog. Now, of course, I can't remember the new dog's name. Oh, she's going to kill me. This isn't looking too good. Well, I'm thrilled to know you're out there, Sarah. Okay, so see, there's probably a fancy name for that, but I just sewed the bottom base of one of her shoulders. And again, I really should be thinking about stuffing her head, not her base here, but I kind of want to make sure I know how to do this one. I tell you, you guys taught me so much about that oil can. Remember 2 weeks ago I couldn't figure out how to use the oil can? That kind of made me laugh. Now I've got that under my belt. And thank you for teaching me how to clean her. She's running like a champ after I learned that I had to plug the 2 holes into the right place. Let me finish that thought. I find that I think half of things and I don't tell you half of things. When I cleaned that old sewing machine last week, there are 2 electric plugs that come from the machine into a little box and then go out to the electric supply. If you switch those 2 plugs, they must have 2 different motors in the machine. I don't know which goes to which. But if you switch it, what happens is when you turn it on, it just runs completely. It doesn't stop. You can't plug it in. It'll just go fast. So anyway, I learned after calling Kathy down at Charlton Sewing Center to switch the plugs, and then it works like a charm. And she's a beautiful machine. So that's that. Who did we just hear from? Ooh! Karen, hi! From Pennsylvania, she says. From cold, wet Pennsylvania, she says. She thinks the new dog's name is Dalton or Dagwood. What does everyone else think Sarah's new dog's name is? Guess I should open this up and see what. Oh, and Sarah, just to complete that thought, I'd love a ride. 11:15 is perfect. Karen says in wet PA, she's enjoying a cozy night on the couch. Love, Karen and Mom. Hi! Wish you were there. No. What do people say? Wish you were here. Well, I wish you were here, or I wish I was there. So glad you're out there. Okay, so now we have this bottom part, and I need to use my hemostat to turn it. And of course, I'm working on the least prioritized thing, but I'm so curious. So I literally just pull it through. . 'Cause So thanks for everyone's comments last week on the rug hooking. I think rug hooking is not a good topic for a FiberCast. I think we have jointly concluded that. It's fun if we have it in a group because we can talk, but I was concentrating on the shading, and I would get into a zone and I would float away, so it's nice to be doing something smaller here and with the sewing machine again. Okay. I wonder how we're ever going to mount this so that it stands upright. Okay, so there are the shoulders of our lady head pin cushion. And I'm just going to leave that like that because I want to sew together a front and a back. And basically what we do is we match the seams here, and it's just fussy sewing all the way around. And in a lot of, not that I've read a whole bunch of patterns, but so far what I'm seeing is they often suggest that when you're making doll heads, you make a couple of them. Because when you think about it, they're so tiny, at least the scale that I like to work at. A stitch here or there can make the difference between probably a frown and a smile looking on the face. Just once you get all the variables, you know, you stuff it, you sew it, you trim it. So I think even though we all follow the same patterns, there is quite a bit of variability in how it can actually come together. I forgot to put my foot down, or my needle down. So who's out there? And what's the weather like in Mississippi, Sandra? And how are all of our Kathys out there? Now we're in a good rhythm. Don't you love it when two pieces of a pattern fit? I say as I go off the deep end. I tried to make a pie, so it's going to work out great because I'm using a pattern. I must say I tried to make a pie without a recipe, and it was a disaster. I tried it last week, and I just cut up a lot of apples, and I put way too much cinnamon. What a waste. So, it's raining in Pennsylvania, that's right. We should all talk about the weather that has been coming up and down the eastern seaboard of the United States. We've had a big storm come through in the last several days. Hurricane Joaquin is down in the Caribbean heading this way. It looks like, I think the last time I saw the models, he's going out to sea. So that'll be good. Now I'm going around a second time. And on this particular pattern, you'll notice I sewed the whole thing, and you may be wondering, where am I going to stuff it? Well, on the back of the head, they had us leave that open. So here we have a doll's head ready to be turned inside out. And before I do that, I'm just going to do a couple of little clips. Not a lot. Maybe round some corners. So since we were together, Bob has been out playing his band at a farm, just a farm cookout, a chicken roast, last Saturday. And we all went, and the weather was beautiful. The storm hadn't come through. And we saw they had llamas and alpacas, and they had goats. 3 goats that were a hoot, climbing up on big telephone spools that you used to roll telephone wire on. They had set that up into an elaborate, like, mountain. Okay, so I'm going to use this to kind of pop out the nose a little bit. So we now have the base and the head for what's going to be a doll pincushion, I guess. And I'm going to use some of the stuffing that Evelyn sent me. So Evelyn, if you're out there in Pacific Palisades, I'm using it. I'm going to use one of my bigger stuffing fork. The reason they call it a stuffing fork, at the very end you can see the tines there, hopefully. And that allows you to catch the stuffing when it's in there and when you're pushing it in. And stuffing is an art that I am still just learning. There's more to it than you might think. From what I've learned so far, you want to be careful not to have like little balls of stuffing. You want to somehow insert it so that it all, at the end of the day, feels like one piece of stuffing inside, overlapping fibers. And it's probably overanalyzing a little bit, especially when you're using polyfill. When you use like wool, which Gail Wilson does on several of her dolls, and I love to use it. And I have some here that I'm going to use on my Tilda doll and see if there's a difference. Then I think you can do some more fine stuffing, and just has a different feel. It all works. See, she's getting a nose. Maybe she'll be a witch for Halloween. I almost went and counted the days until Christmas. But then I thought, no, let's get to Halloween. Let's enjoy Halloween. Guess who already has a costume lined up? I do. So make sure you tune in. So here I am using my finger, so I guess I'm not using the stuffing fork yet. And I like this. This stuffing's really kind of bouncy. I'm liking it. Let me do one more, and then I'm going to fill the bottom just to get a feel for it. And then I'm going to go on to probably sewing the second head. Or no, maybe I'll go on to Tilda, so that you don't want to watch me repeat something. The neck is literally going to stuff back into her head. Okay, so let's put that aside and let's pick up, I keep wanting to say her bust, but it's really not quite a bust, is it? What's the bottom part of a bust? When I think of a bust, I think it has the head on it, but so after I stuff this, I'll check our email. Dying to see who's out there. I'm trying something new. You all are going to have to let me know if it works. On YouTube, there are some choices And there are some different ways to set up YouTube. I haven't done the live streaming yet, but we'll get there. But when I set up the event, I'm now just making it available on platforms where, quite frankly, the advertisers can get to, so that I can get jazzed about continuing to do this, quite frankly. And it's more like it's a game for me. So thanks for coming along for the ride. And if you want me to explain what I'm talking about, I would be happy to. In fact, I will just explain it now. What I mean is that on certain YouTube platforms, the advertisers know that you're going to be watching. And they like that, and they're willing to pay someone who creates content like me, who broadcasts, a penny for every time you watch. That's all it is. And the YouTube platform basically counts how many times you watch. So, and it literally is half a penny or a quarter of a penny. It's not anything to quit my day job over. But like I say, it's kind of cool and interesting that we are a community of like-minded people, and the advertisers are very interested in that. So let's let them pay for our fun. If nothing else, they'll pay for supplies, right? So now I'm using this fork, and I love it. And I can really start to make it really solid. What else? So, I need to tell you what's up. So that's right. Last Friday night, I was in New Orleans, so thank you everyone for watching the pre-recorded show. And we had a good time in New Orleans. I was at the Waldorf Astoria in downtown New Orleans at a awards show, and the state of Arkansas won for their Gov2Go platform, which is kind of interesting. So congratulations, Arkansas. And different cities around the country won for different parts of different portals. And it was a fun time. They had really good music. I took a walk when I got there. I flew down Friday, and I took a walk from the hotel, and I'd been there before. Of course, on the plane, I realized that I literally had in my own kitchen a glass from 1990 from the first time I was in New Orleans for a technology conference. And then I did the math and realized that was 25 years ago. I may have told you that already, but that was eye-opening to me. And so anyway, when I was there 25 years ago, I did go to Bourbon Street, and I drank a Hurricane, and that's what the glass is from. The glass is from Deacon's, which was Digital Equipment Corporation, but it was for their signature Hurricane drink, which is like this red drink that has lots of alcohol in it. Anywho, when I took my walk, so I flew in on Friday, I took my walk before the awards ceremony, and thinking I would go find Bourbon Street. Well, of course, I got completely turned around. I hadn't downloaded the latest Apple operating system upgrade, and something was going on with my iPad and my phone, so nothing was working. And so anyway, I practically ended up in Georgia, which after you do that, it's time to get a new iPad. Okay, but I digress, and I'm not moving quickly enough, am I? I need to just show you a bit of how this is going to look. And then we'll move on to a Tilda ornament. A little mini Tilda is what I'm trying to make. A couple of pins. Well, I think you'll get the idea. There's going to be your head. And stay tuned for what we do with this. So there's part of my doll making. So we'll put that down there. Let's go on to part 2, which I'm really quite excited about. Again, on the website, or on the internet, the interwebs, as my sister says, you can look for any patterns for Tilda. And I picked out this one, and I actually reduced it to this size because I want it to be, it'll still be a good 9, it'll still be 8 inches tall. But, so that's what we're going to make. But before I get started, let's go see who's out there and what you're working on. Sarah, very astute of you, asks me, did I drink a hurricane before I tried to find Bourbon Street? No, I did not. But that's very funny. And while we have you on the line, what's your new dog's name going to be? I forget. Duke? Luke? Luke. I'm looking at past emails. We can't wait to see her. Or him. Dexter! Dexter! Karen was close. Dexter. I just remembered it. Okay. Let's go see who's out there. Yay! Oh, I'm so glad I see lots of you out there. Patty, are you in Texas? Patty Bannister, hello. Patty says, sorry I haven't posted in a while. She says, I have been watching and enjoying your show. Oh, good. She says, I can't watch until later as it's family time tonight. Love your rug. What a treasure. And she says, I'm so glad your mom is getting better. Mine is doing as well as can be expected. She's quite a tough lady and a good example. Isn't that the truth? Patty, I'm so glad to hear that. I know that you've been with her a lot. And she says, Patty says, tumblers are under my needle today, and a garage sale's tomorrow, so see you later tonight, Patty in Texas. Well, hello, and good luck with your garage sale tomorrow. That's great. Delwyn, hi, in New Zealand. She says, Delwyn tells us all she's sewing a block of the month Asteria quilt. She spent all morning setting up scant quarter-inch seam on her Bernina 830. Oh my goodness, I'm envious. You have an 830? That's awesome. That's interesting, though. You'll have to tell us what you learned. So, she says she could not get it quite right, so she's now sewing on Flora the Featherweight. That's awesome. Flora? I like that name. Did you hear that I'm going to call my new machine Olive Oil? Because I told Bob I was going to buy the oil can, and the machine came with it. So we're going to call her Olive Oil, and Olive for short. So Flora the Featherweight came to the rescue, and the seam allowance is perfect. She says, my thoughts to the friends and families affected by the terrible events from yesterday. Something this shocking sends reverberations around the globe. It really does. It's well said. Thanks, Delwyn. We're a global community. Oh, and she sends a lovely picture. There's Flora. Oh, now it's downloading. Isn't that fun? I'm going to come back to that. It somehow now has gone back into a PDF. Maureen in Pennsylvania. She says, I'm not sewing tonight. I ran to my laptop and have been on Pinterest after my daughter informed me she may be moving out. Hello, bigger sewing room. Is that what you told her? That's funny. How fun to plan. Okay, here is Delwyn's setup, and there's Flora. Flora the featherweight. Love it. I always love your colors that you work on. Look at how pretty that is. Joyce Long. My goodness, it's so good to see people out there. Joyce says, glad I could join you tonight. It's very windy and rainy here in southern Maryland. Ooh, yes. She says, it's been raining moderately all day. It's chilly, so I'm on the sofa with the computer. She says, I've been quilting a baby quilt and hope to finish and bind it tomorrow. My sister's going on a cruise in your neck of the woods tomorrow up to Halifax. Ooh, that'll be fun. And she says she's so glad the hurricane will miss them. Yes. I've never done that cruise. That has always sounded very fun. She says, thanks for FiberCast and have a great weekend. Joyce, you too. And isn't that good? It's a good feeling when you finish the binding on a quilt. Ooh, and Kathy K. She says, hello from the Midwest. She says, I'm working on about 2 million, give or take, 2.5-inch tumblers. Well, you and Patty should get together. 2.5-inch tumblers. Those are not very big, are they? It's going to be stunning. She says, I'm making each of my kids a table runner and 6 placemats. Each family gets a specific color or design. Yep, I'm going to need about 400,000 or 500,000 more. You know, you're reminding me I have a box of 1.5-inch squares that I meant to send to Karen in Pennsylvania, and you've just reminded me I have to do that. So Karen, I'm sorry. I didn't send them right away because I wanted to wait until Mom was there and send them when she was there so you could both look at them. But so I could surprise you, but I forgot. Well, Kathy K, after you're done with your 400,000 to 500,000 tumblers, you can, she says, all the fabric she's using are scraps or recycled fabric. That's great. Have a great show, and I will be there. Take care. It came, and just so you know, Kathy, it came twice, so whatever you're doing is working. Thank you. Hey, Jean! Jean of Hopkinton Legacy. She says, I'm so excited to actually be sewing this week while I'm watching. It's been way too long since I've been in my studio. I know. You've been out straight. She says, I'm having trouble with my laptop, so I'm watching from my tiny phone, but it's so worth it to hang out with you. Well, thank you, Jean. And you know, in some little way, that's better than the 70-inch TVs that we're starting to see FiberCast come on. Oh, and she says, P.S. I actually couldn't get onto YouTube because the access was restricted. Is that the change you made? It must be. I actually couldn't get onto YouTube. So you must be watching through Facebook? Although YouTube should be one of those platforms that for sure it should just show. So that's interesting. Let's keep playing with it. If it was a pain, I'll change it back. Hey, Flying Pecan. That got my attention. New subscriber, Mary Beth. Hello, Mary Beth. Welcome. Mary Beth, she says she's in San Antonio, Texas. And she says she enjoys FiberCast and was so inspired, by me and my sister Karen to try Hexies, an English paper piecing. She calls it EPP. She said, I thought I would never have the patience to sew them, but I was really surprised at how fun they are to sew. She says, thank you. Aren't they, Mary Beth? In fact, I have mine. I'm going to pack them up because next week we go on a road trip to West Virginia, and I'm going to get back into them. They're great. They're very satisfying. That's so fun. Thanks for subscribing, and thanks for being here. My goodness. Well, Tilda is waiting. So let me put this away. And I did start Tilda so that hopefully I can show you the progress or the process. And I have two different scissors. Here we go. My paper scissors and my fabric scissors. So on freezer paper, I've already traced the Tilda body, the arm, and the leg. And you'll notice there are dotted lines here. And those dotted lines represent where we're going to have different fabric. So for her head, for example, I'm going to do the top part of her head in a flesh-colored fabric. Flesh-colored. Then I'm going to do the middle torso part in this red silk. Then the bottom here is going to be flesh. No. The bottom here is going to be white, like it's her bloomers. And then down here on the leg, she's going to have bloomers down to her knee. Then she's going to have flesh from her knee down to a black shoe. And same thing on her arm. The top part of their arm will be red, and the bottom part will be flesh. So let's see if we can make that happen in the next couple of minutes. And it shouldn't be that difficult to do, really. We do have to do 2 of everything. I know it's famous last words, but really, we can do this. Okay. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure this has ever been washed. Oh. There we go. So, literally, I'm looking at how big I have to make this. It's not bad. And I'm sure there are smarter ways to do this. You could get really good at doing an assembly line type thing. For now, we'll piece at least 2 of them. And then, because it really isn't that much, I'm actually going to do all 4 right here. Show you what I mean. So here are 4, the shoes and bottom feet. Okay, and while that gets hot, I'm going to cut out the head and the arms. And I am trying to pay attention to which way the bias goes. This is going to be the bottom of the arms. It's going to be the head. Now let's put that there. This we don't need anymore. Can you tell I've been holding off on the red because I'm not quite sure how this is going to work, but so for the arm, I just need a little piece, 4 little pieces like that. And it would be great if they matched. So look at this, there are, well, they're little birdies. I don't think it matters. Other than I'm going to keep it more plain than, she's going to have a full skirt of it, and we'll have all these pretty. I think this will work. There's 1, 2, and then we're literally going to go up like this. See what I just did? Cut through my head. Okay, so there we have, put that up aside for just a second. I hope this is making sense. I'm basically making fabric for the doll parts. And right now I'm doing the arms. Okay. Now, this iron is working. This is so fun. We are doing something new. It's going to be the bottom. These need a little bit of trimming. Oh, I have other excellent news that I will post after FiberCast. Karen, out in Pennsylvania, entered some quilts and some flowers, some African violets, at her Bloomsburg County Fair, and she won ribbons. Lots of blue ribbons on her flowers, and one of her Simply Colorful quilts got a 4th place. I'm so proud. And I love the quilt that you did. So I will, if it's okay with you, Karen, I would love to put that on the Simply Colorful Facebook page. That'll have to go in our book that we're making, right? Okay, so this is literally going to be the top of Tilda's arm and her bottom. And I want to iron it the other way. I don't want to see her dress fabric down in the flesh of her arms. So basically, I've just created 2 pieces of material. So I've just pinned together. And then I'm going to take her arm that I've already drawn on the wax paper, or the freezer paper, sorry. I hope this works. This is tiny. for that silk. That silk might be more difficult to manipulate than I thought. But here's her arm. So we literally probably could do 2 arms out of this, but we won't. Let's see. What I am doing, though, is I can now find where we'll just have red. We won't have any other colors of the silk. It's going to be a nightmare to turn, but we're going to try it. So now again, I'm literally sewing around the freezer paper in a very tiny stitch, a 1.4, and this down where her arm is, because it's so little, where her hand is, right there, I literally am going to take a stitch, move it, take a stitch, move it. So this can take a long time, but it's worth it. And again, the Textile Tarts and Sarah have shown me what I'm learning about doll making so far. I am just experimenting. Kerplunk. What that was. Oh, I do know what that was. Did you see what just happened? My cutter. Excuse me. Oh, I don't think it'll go right back in. Maybe. Well, I'll do that when we're done. Okay, so here is the arm, front and the back. Now I'm going to take, well, I'm going to cut around it. Can you hear the dog downstairs? So there's literally her little arm, and I'm going to sew around it again, double seam it. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm going to do it. FiberCast is a lot about experimenting. And how lucky that we can experiment together. And that we have people in our lives that support us experimenting. All right, let's see if we can successfully turn this. First, I'm going to take the pattern off, and then now I need a mirror copy of it. So well, this is cool, like webbing. I don't even have to cut it off. Oh, I'm going to have to make another pattern piece, aren't I? But you guys know me, I'm going to improvise, and I'm just going to pin it. She'll have one long arm and she'll have one short arm, probably. Duh. Oh. Don't do this at home. This is silly. Into my mouth. And basically, because I'm too lazy, to draw a pattern piece. All right. That dog. Well, I tell you, we might not get a whole Tilda doll done. I hope I've whet your appetite, though. And it's been so good to hear from everyone. Hi to Lorna and out in the Midwest, and Anne up in Canada, Jen in Perth, all of our new participants. Mary Beth, I'm thrilled that you're with us. Maureen, keep us posted on your new sewing room and your daughter's new digs. Okay. Now, let's see. All right. In our last remaining couple of minutes, let's see if we can turn one of these. Oh, I think I'm going to need yet another tool, which are my turning rods. See these rods? They're good for fingers. If I can remember how to do it. This is definitely not going to happen in 1 minute. So, I think I'm going to leave you in suspense, and you can hope that I successfully turn these. This is all we've got so far for our Tilda doll, her arms. And I want to thank everyone for joining Simply Colorful FiberCast. It's been a great time. I hope you've enjoyed it too. Keep on being creative, keep on sewing, and remember to tune in next week, next Friday. It'll be another recorded episode because I will be in West Virginia with the family, about ready to watch a football game. So keep on being creative, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone. Gotta get my mouse.